Have you ever had this happen to you? Somebody looks at your pictures and they're like, wow, these are really good pictures. You must have a really good camera. And firstly, I'm going, it's not the camera, it's the person holding the camera. But yes, I do. I have lots of really good cameras. Do you want to see them and the lenses? Hi, everybody. This is Paul Crouse. I'm a professional photographer based in Kyoto, Japan. I also do tour guiding, lead photo workshops for EYExplore, and do travel consulting for Japan Travel Consulting. You can learn about all that stuff in the description below. A lot of people are curious about what's in my camera bag, so let's take a look. Here we go. This is a Domke J2 bag. Before we get going any further, camera gear are tools, and tools, you need to use the right tool for the right purpose. There's many different kinds of photographers, and what works for me might not work for you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Back in the 80s, mid-80s to mid-90s, I worked as a daily newspaper photographer in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This was pre-internet days. We shot film, so I used to go out every day with whatever was in a bag. A lot similar to this. I'd take pictures of, we call it death and destruction, or kids and dogs. It was a local newspaper. It was a great experience in my life. I learned a lot about the world, and I learned about gathering information. That's my background, is news. Okay, other people do art, other people do real estate. A lot of what I'm doing now in Japan, international tourists come in and they want to have their pictures taken. And so I take them to really cool places away from all the other tourists, because they had been big tourist hordes for a while there before the pandemic, and take nice pictures of them in cool locations. So I don't have a car. I've lived here 26 years, and I haven't had a car since I lived here. Living in Japanese cities, cars can be kind of a pain in the neck. So I have to carry all my camera gear wherever I go. So big, heavy cameras is not a good thing. Most photographers will talk to you about back pain or whatever. So in my camera bag, this bag here, this Domke bag, it's not actually my shooting bag anymore. This is where I keep all of my gear, my main gear inside. I have a bunch of other gear, but this is my main shooting stuff. So let's take a look inside. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of what I have. This is my Fujifilm X-T2. This is my primary camera, like the best camera I've ever had. It's not the most up-to-date. There's more up-to-date ones, but the images of this camera are really wonderful. And this lens is an 18mm f2 lens. This is one of the first lenses that came out when Fujifilm came out with these mirrorless cameras. I really like the Fujifilm cameras. They're light. They have lots of knobs on them. We have ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and exposure compensation. For me, this is just so much easier to use than fiddling around with a bunch of computer menus and stuff. So for me, it's a good size and weight, and the files that come out of this are excellent. I often shoot JPEG. I used to shoot slides, so shooting JPEGs is actually pretty easy. I believe that if you get it right in the camera, you don't have to waste your time in photo processing in the computer. My backup camera is a Fujifilm X-T1. I scored this as soon as the pandemic was happening. I was actually traveling in Thailand, and I just got back to Japan right before they closed the border off. I have an older X-T1 that I used for years and years and years, and it was beat up. I didn't know what was going to happen with the pandemic. Nobody did. But I knew I needed a backup camera. But I didn't want to spend too much money on it, so I went online. And in Tokyo, there's some amazing camera shops. I found this is mint condition used. I got it for like $350. I had the original one I bought for these was like $1,500. These are great cameras. We'll talk about that more later. I basically have two lens kits that I can mix and match with. We'll show you my basic kit. This is a 56mm f1.2. This is an awesome lens. It's a portrait lens. It's so sharp, it'll cut your fingers. And this is a 14mm 2.8. So this is the equivalent of a 21mm and an 85mm. These are two of my primary lenses. Now this I use for portraits. And you got to be careful with the super wide lens. They're not that easy to use. And I used to make lots of mistakes with these. So these are two of my primary lenses. And my third primary lens in that kit is a 35mm f1.4. These lenses are like the original first ones that they came out with. All of these are relatively old. And so you might say, well, Paul, why don't you upgrade? It's like, these work for me. I mean, there's things I want to upgrade, but you upgrade when you need to do it. These are investments and I find they work for me. The internet, them their inner tube wants you to buy. Well, buy what works, and like this stuff is good. You take care of it, lasts for years. This is my other lens that I have in this kit, and this is the 55 to 200 millimeter zoom. I don't actually use this that much, but there's sometimes I really need to have some reach, and sometimes I'm just bored and try to do something different. This is a good lens, size weight combination. They have a 50 to 140, which is, I had a lens like that at 80 to 200 2.8 when I was a news person, and that's a brick. I have to carry all this stuff around. So, and then the other one I have here, 18 to 55. This is the kit lens, and it's actually quite a good lens. Relatively cheap, but it's sharp and it's useful. This is more of a lens that I use where I really don't know what the situation's gonna be like. Sometimes I swap out the 35 with this lens. Wide aperture, good for blowing out the background, out of focus, or just low light. This is good for like if I don't know if I'm going to be able to move forward or backwards. So that's my primary lenses. A couple other things I'd like to show you here. Fujifilm X100T. I love this. It's one of my favorite cameras. I'd like to have the newer version of it, but right now, business in the pandemic time, But this is a great camera. I love this. I had an X100S, it kind of died. And so that day, I just marched to the store. I was on a gig and it was just getting funky. I mean, these cameras, I don't know, especially the earlier versions, I don't know if they were really designed to be using as much as I did. And that had like 80,000 frames on it. This probably has something similar by now. This is like a digital Leica with a 35 millimeter f2 lens on it. It's amazing. The lens is really good. I know people online are like, it's not perfect. Well, yeah, it's great. It's a great lens. What's good about this is it's small, it's light. I've shot quite a few gigs with just this. I've shot a wedding with just this. I've shot client portrait things with just this. The files that come out of this are beautiful. Colors are great. I really like these cameras. I can shoot it like this. I can shoot it down. I remember one client specifically said, he was like an American. I was with his family and we're taking him around town and I just had this. And he finally said, to me, "Thank you. I'm glad that you didn't bring a big camera." So people are more comfortable with this. When you get a big camera lens sticking it in someone's face, because most people are like, "You're taking my picture?" It's really awkward feeling, because it is. This is an Fujifilm XF10. This is a compact camera. During the pandemic, I was going for walks every day, and even this got to be a little bit too much to lug around. It's got a APS-C size sensor, the same size sensors. It doesn't have the X-Trans sensor. It has I don't know, they call it Bear or whatever. It's just a regular sensor. The Fujifilm sensors are awesome, and the colors are awesome. The colors are awesome here, but they're a little bit different, and I have some challenges with, it's like the raw files are a little different. Nonetheless, I got this dirt cheap. I got this for like, I don't know, $300 or something. You can find these used online. The interface of it, they call it the PASM dial, which to me is a little fiddly to work with, but it's got a good lens, it's got a good sensor, and the autofocus is actually pretty good too. So for walking around, it takes good pictures. Again, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. This has to get the job done. And so I throw this in my bag, and sometimes I don't have I'm not out taking pictures, but I see something cool I want to take a picture of and get something better than just my iPhone can do. So what kind of gear do you use? Please let me know in the comments below. Also, if there's any, if you have any comments or questions or videos you'd like me to make, also write that in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like or subscribe, because that really helps me out with the computer overlords at YouTube and Google, so other people can find my videos. All right, thanks a lot. See you around. Bye.